Welcome to Free Beer Friday, powered in part by Classic of Denton.
Cool. Hey, guys. Welcome back to Free Beer Friday. I'm Ben from The Bearded Monk. Guess who I've got today with me? I've got Nate. I've got Austin with rahr & Sons Brewing.
Hey, friends.
Hi.
Say hi out there to everybody in Radioland.
Howdy.
Okay, so get started. We all know the rahr name. We've been drinking this stuff for years. That's Fritz's brewery is one of the classics of DFW, right? He was leading this charge in craft beer in DFW. But where did the name come from? I mean, well, we know it's Fritz Rahr, but what's behind that name?
It's really his family's history. He's been here for 170, probably 80 years by now. Since 170 was when he started, and we've been 10 years plus. So
Jeez,
that makes Fritz old.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's old.
So
He's one of the oldest brewers in the country.
6th generation by now. Great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather. They came over here, started a brewery, but also a maltery. It's the time that was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
it was in the 1840s. They did the brewing. They started I think it was called Eagle Brewing and Malting.
Eagle Malting and Brewing. It was
Water
their
brewery
full
in
name.
Wisconsin.
So, like, the malting part of that is important for the story. If you notice, we're just rahr malting today, but at the time it was Eagle Malting and Brewing, because at the time they both malted their own barley and they brewed beer with it. And then as time went on, they started malting barley for other breweries. And then by the time Prohibition came around, they were a solid maltster as well as a brewery. So it was a relatively easy decision to just stop brewing and focus on malting.
Well, yeah, because you couldn't brew at that point. What were they malting grains for during Prohibition? Do we know?
I think they provided malt for. I mean, there's a lot of areas in the food industry that use malted grains for
So
other food
just
products.
adjusted their customer base. And then Prohibition did it. It's
Well-
like, all right, let's get back into
Well,
brewing.
also
Let's
Canada. They were up in Wisconsin and
Right.
Minnesota. They could sell malt to
and
Canadian
there's a malt
brewers.
house in
Nice.
Canada as well.
Funnily
That is
enough,
awesome.
Funnily enough, though, a lot of the barley was grown in Canada, shipped down here to a dry country, malted, and then
And
shipped
returned to
right
Canada.
back north.
Just to the breweries right over the border.
So, like, they could
That's
grow the
awesome.
barley, they could make the beer, but they needed us to malt the barley for them.
Whatever the case, it turned out to be a good business decision for the family. So they're one of the oldest privately held companies, as I understand it, in the country, going back to 1847.
That's freaking
so
awesome.
rahr malting, if you go to probably 95% of craft breweries in the country, there's some rahr malt. So we
That
go
malt sitting
to
around.
national events, conferences. Everybody knows the rahr name because they know of rahr malting. And a lot of people don't know that we have a brewery in Fort Worth. And the distinction is Fritz is 5th generation brewer of the rahr family, but this is his family's
This is
private,
baby right
separate
here.
entity. That's his business in Fort Worth. Yeah, and we've been open for 13 years.
Golly, 13 years.
Yeah, so we kind of talked earlier, Fritz landed in Fort Worth to get his MBA from TCU. He was a competitive swimmer. He was a scholarship swimmer. Went to work in the railroad
Didn't know this about
industry
you,
in
Fritz.
Houston for about a dozen years. And, Fritz is a beer guy. He grew up in the malt houses. He grew up around beer, and he loved it, and he wanted to be a brewer. So I think he actually applied to, what was it, Sam Adams? You see the placard in his office. A couple of other big breweries that
he
were
has rejection letters
Sierra Nevada
now framed.
Yeah, he's got some cool rejection letters from some cool breweries. So.
Of all of these,
Yeah.
grandstand guys that
Yeah,
survived the 80s.
yeah.
I think he just decided to open his
I
own.
think it's
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada, Sam Adams, and
Can't remember the third
Anchor.
one. That's on. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
He went big.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
That's a great question.
Oh, yeah.
What is malting? Malting is basically taking raw barley, soaking it in water to allow it to start germinating, start creating some enzymes that we need later in the brewing process. And then once it's created enough of those, drying it out to stop that process.
Stop it where it
And-
is.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then later after that, as part of the malting, they may or may not, depending on how they dry it out, will create different malts. So you can try it high humidity, low humidity, high temp, low temp. Take a long time, short time, roast it, not roast
then
it.
We get the different variants.
And that's
for
how
these
you
strong
get
beer.
from
yeah,
the
you get different
same
flavors,
barley.
scents.
You can make everything from pale malt to roasted malt to honey malt to acidulated malt to caramel malt to everything in between.
Right
It's
on.
going to decide the color of your beer, a lot to do with the flavor of your beer, the potential of the alcohol in your beer. So it's kind of a cool thing to think about. We take this agricultural product from someone else who spends their life growing this plant and then delivering it to a maltster who that is a craft industry unto itself, is to malt that so they treat that
Perfect
barley
this.
kernel to deliver to brewers the way we treat the beer that we want to deliver in a package to the consumer. So it's
To our mouths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So anyhow, that's Fritz's roots. So he wanted to get back into brewing. They opened the brewery 13 years ago in 2004. We'll celebrate our 13th anniversary in November.
Golly.
If you
We got a
wanna
party planned.
come to an awesome
Yeah.
party at the brewery. Our anniversary tour goes pretty hard. We'll save 40 or 50 different beers that
At
we've brewed
least.
throughout the year.
Tap directly into some keg
It's
or
a
barrels.
fun day. Yeah.
We drill
Yes.
through the wood.
It's a
That
fun
is
day.
awesome. That
Do you
is
want to
awesome.
give a spoiler? What's our Austin's kind
Ooh.
of heading up our
Uh,
anniversary beer this
The
year? It's a
anniversary
barrel
this
aged.
year will be a Belgian dark strong aged in rum barrels.
Oh, that's going to be super nice. Yeah. All right. What are the specs on this Belgian Dark Strong? Or do we know what it's looking like coming out of the barrels?
We haven't taken it out of the barrels yet.
Oh.
I don't think we've measured alcohol, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's
looking
going to
for
be
double
up
digits.
there. Yeah.
It's alcohol wise, it was 22 Plato going into the barrels. So I think that's about like 9 or 10%. Kind of by the time it finishes fermenting, picks up a little extra gravity, alcohol from the barrels, aging as well. So it'll probably be a good 10, 11% by the time.
Oh, that's going to be
Dark,
glorious.
strong beer, lots of sweet coconut, raisin character, the sweet, vanilla and coconut rum flavors you get, all just married together with that
so good.
nice wood tannins as well.
So good.
100% barrel aged. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. And that's
all
brewery
that should
only.
go on the label.
That is
sounds
it.
great. Yeah,
That's it. So if you guys want to try that, you've got to go to the
Well,
anniversary
it's,
party.
it's
No,
going to
we-
be draft.
It'll be
only
draft on.
this
Okay,
year.
so you're going to let it out?
Yeah,
Oh.
but
Well,
it's very
F&A.
limited release. It's one small batch.
We just
I
have
think we're-
16 wooden barrels of it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Golly. Okay.
It's one small batch.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's not a whole lot of kegs. That's not a whole lot of kegs. All right, and that's for, what, all of Texas, basically?
All of everywhere because we distribute outside of Texas.
Okay, so I never get to leave Texas anymore. I barely get to leave Denton anymore. Where do you guys distribute?
We're in Oklahoma, and then very recently we have launched Kansas, and
wow.
we're in the midst of a Nebraska launch, and that's actually where Fritz will be next week. So we're
Right
sort
on.
of expanding our horizons a little bit.
So if you're in Kansas next week?
Kansas, we're pouring beers in Kansas.
But Fritz is going to be
Nebraska.
out. Oh, Nebraska.
Nebraska, yeah.
Okay, so if you're in Nebraska next week, go hunt down Fritz.
Yeah.
He's going to be kicking around. All right.
Fritz will be out pouring beers for you.
What?
Can't beat
Man,
that.
you can't even get that in Texas. You got to go to Nebraska for it. That'd be awesome. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the name. Do we want to talk about some of the beers that we've got going on right now?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, what do I have right now? I've got the Oktoberfest.
All right.
Oh, well, here.
You had the Oktoberfest.
There's still some in it.
Did you break your beer?
Kinda. We'll get. I
No,
might.
he
I
didn't
might
break
get a
it. He
refill
just
in a
drank
minute.
it all.
Yeah, there's a hole in it. Wait,
There's
which
a
camera are
shotgun
we
hole
on
at the
right
bottom.
now? Is it that one?
There
That's
you
that one.
go,
There it
yeah.
is. Yep. So when are we going to see this bad boy?
That bad boy is out in market.
Right now?
Uh-huh. We're in the midst of
Oh.
Oktoberfest here in July. It's a brand that seems to go to market a little earlier each year because everybody wants to get theirs out first. But this beer has been successful for us. We were lucky enough to win a GABF medal, a gold medal with this beer 2 years ago.
We may want to define that as well because you guys have won multiple medals over the years. GABF, what is the Great American Beer Fest?
Well, Great American Beer Fest is kind of the preeminent.
It's the
Beer
Great
competition.
American Beer Festival.
Yeah, the acronym says it all. There's a few, World Beer Cup. There's a couple in Europe that are significant, but GABF is sort of one of the most prestigious competitions, I would say, in the world. Certainly
yeah.
in the
Definitely within the states,
United
it's
States.
the most prestigious.
And again, just to be in the hunt or be considered for a medal or be at the final table, there's a lot of subjectivity. So we're always excited to win a medal. That means we're producing beer that at least has a chance to be favored by the judges. So,
yeah. Well, the way I would think the way the rest of the world looks to us for these extreme beers that we're doing. We're not doing a 100-year-old recipe. We're doing something new, something novel, something amazing. We get real wild. So if you win a GABF, I put that up top of the world.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just me. I'm not looking for classic
really cool part
styles.
about it is if you win a GABF medal with a beer, you get to make lots of that beer. So now a beer that we're really proud of, we like to drink, and we're excited about, we get to make 1,000 barrels of this beer last year and this year, and
right
the
on.
market's ready for it, and so it fills up all of our tanks for a while.
Especially since it's a lager.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to take a little bit, right?
This is not a fast beer to make, so this beer needs time to age gracefully.
Okay, so
another really cool
Oktoberfest.
thing that we did with this beer last year is we entered it in a competition called the European Beer Star. So that's sort of the GABF on the European continent.
Okay.
Very prestigious, and we have entered a few beers in that competition for the last couple of years, and this was the first and only medal we've won in that competition, and we received a bronze in a very traditional German-style category in the most prestigious beer competition in Europe. So, again, going back to Fritz, he was super excited. He took his buddy, Stubby, and they went over to the festival, and they received the award, and he was, really pumped about that. So we've kind of got to win an award
You're
in
on
the
the
States
home
and in Europe.
turf of the Oktoberfest at that point. So that's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing.
So it's
we
kinda
feel
like-
really happy when we take German beers to German competitions and win.
And beat
So if I'm being
German
honest,
brewers.
gold at GABF
Yeah.
for anything ever, even one time, is a really big deal, and that's like off the charts cool. But bronze in that category in Europe is kind of like, man, that pumps me up too.
You
That's
brought
pretty
it.
cool.
You brought it back around to show them how
Yeah.
it's done.
If I can beat the Germans at their own game,
Superb.
that's when you know you made it.
Well, okay, so over the years, or maybe if we want to condense it down, because you guys have won a lot of awards throughout the years. What have you won recently? Or is that still too broad a category? There are too many things.
Well,
to
no,
mention?
as far as GABF and Euro Beer Star, those are the most recent medals there. But we enter a lot of competitions. Some of them are national. Some of them are more local or maybe second tier, if that's fair, or just not as prestigious or widely
not this massive.
entered.
Yeah.
A beer that we'll be serving tonight, actually, the Regulator, that's also won bronze and gold at GABF in consecutive years.
The
And
Doppelbock.
then the Doppelbock,
Yeah, this is the
which is, yep. And then U.S. Open, if anybody's heard of the U.S. Open Beer Championships, that's kind of a neat competition as well. And Regulator won gold this year and last at that, so it kind of
And the year before, so it's actually
so
a
it's
three-peat on the U.S.
years.
Open.
Nice.
Three-peat.
Nice. Golly. See, so the prestige there. All right, and then so tonight we also have Mr. Wiggles, the new IPA. What can we expect from that?
Well, just to clarify, we've got Dadgum IPA. Mr. Wiggles is our double IPA.
Okay.
So for all the hop
well,
heads
then
out
let's start.
there-
Yeah, and we've got Dadgum right here. This is Dadgum. Wait, I don't know what camera I'm looking at here. Oh, that's my face. Enjoy that.
There you go.
Good question on the collaboration. We can talk about that too.
Ooh, yeah. There we go. I'm
Another
moving it around
spoiler
like
alert.
crazy.
Can we even talk about that yet?
Uh,
You're asking. I'm not the person to tell you that.
Let's do it.
and a question about it, collaboration.
I know. I saw that.
Oh, Colt, come on. Quit asking questions.
All right, I'll get in trouble. We actually had a meeting today. We may or may not be doing a collaboration beer with the brewers at Gordon Biersch and Old Chicago.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is a fantastic restaurant brewery chain. There's a long tradition there with Gordon Biersch, and they make fantastic beers. So we may be working on something that will be one small batch that we'll partner with them that we'll have in our tap room, and then some of the restaurants
They'll show up out
in the market, and
Right on.
maybe even in these other states that we're launching at their franchise at their restaurant.
Right
So,
on. Okay, so we can't talk about what that's going to taste
None of
like.
that happened. We didn't even talk about that.
Gotcha.
So
Sorry, guys.
may or may not
That's all
happen.
we got. That's all we got.
It's happening, not happening.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If it happens, we'll consider ourselves lucky to get to brew with those guys.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough.
If it didn't happen, nothing happened. If you did happen, you got the scoop.
Nice. Awesome. Oh, man.
Well
This is
said.
like early news.
Yo.
Seriously. Okay. Gotcha. All right. And then Dadgum. Let's talk about Dadgum. This is the new IPA out. Give me some scoop
Dadgum
on
hoppy.
that. Dadgum, man.
It's-
Dadgum.
It's our interpretation of an American IPA.
Okay.
You guys probably have heard of Stormcloud IPA. It's an English style India Pale Ale that we made for
This is cold enough.
almost
I'm opening
12
this.
years.
Do it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys have
I
already
was
seen
really
this.
hoping you would.
Yeah, I'm drinking this one, man.
We kind of retired and graduated that brand in favor of this brand. Just, at this point, let's be honest, IPAs aren't a trend. Everybody wants an IPA.
Everybody's got it, right?
We as brewers
bring it
even
in.
wanted an IPA that we wanted to have and drink. So something more along the lines of a West Coast IPA. I mean, you guys, hopheads out there, they know exactly what we're talking about. It's going to have a nice bitterness, piney bitterness, some citrus character, some tropical fruit. We really worked hard on this beer. We work hard on all of our beers, but we've made most of those brands for a while, and they've kind of been entrenched. But this was a totally new brand, something new that we had never made. We'd never made a beer this hop forward, so it was kind of fun to work with our lab. And we've been working on our tasting panel, which is kind of a sensory evaluation program. And we've really grown that up a lot. And this brand was sort of a stepping stone over 9 or 10 months to grow that program. So we were all getting together once a week and tasting different IPAs in market, tasting our test
Dude,
batches.
we did 15, 20 different
Yeah,
test batches
just to
and
decide,
iterations at least,
Right
if not
on.
more.
Because we have our production process in place, and we can kind of figure out, well, what do we want this beer to taste like and smell like and feel like and look like.
Well,
and
you were so many Fridays after a previous tasting panel going, all right, well, I think I got the malt body right. So I'm going to brew the malt body the same, but then split the dry hop or split some other aspect and, just have it so, as
trying different hop
laboratory,
combinations
I want to have it as controlled, but only this is different.
You're exactly
Right.
right.
And,
The
you
scientific
know,
the
method.
most efficient you can be
And
to
you-
create
yeah,
the best
you did,
beer you can.
You were we had test batch 1, 2, 3, and then we started having 7 A, B, C, and things like that.
You can only change
I
one
mean,
thing if you want to know if it works.
Yes.
you really did it, man, and you knocked it out of the park. You did enough until you basically just did it until it got it right, and
That is awesome.
And I
So
think
we
that's
were
how
tired
we
of
did it.
tasting IPAs. Well, that's cool. Yeah. And
Well,
so,
talk about a testament to the product quality that comes out of a rahr. I mean, you're not going to go, nah, that tastes good. All right, throw it out there in a keg. No,
Right.
you were serious enough that this was going to be perfect.
Yeah, we brew beer that we want to drink, and certainly something
We
that
brew
we
beer every day, and we're confident about our normal practices. But if we're just kind of starting something brand new, we're gonna trial that before we give you to the public something that is strong. Because I've done a million test batches. I've totally messed up tons of times, and
no one will ever
and I don't,
know.
Only way to learn. That's how we
Yeah,
learn.
and if I mess up, I analyze that and take a look at it. What did we like? What did we didn't like? How can we move forward? What can we learn? We want to present a final great product to the public, but that doesn't mean that we can't do lots of we have experimental things, but we don't necessarily want to release every single one of those. Not all of them turn out, and anything we release, we want to make sure is really top tier stuff.
And then, so, dadgum, we've got top tier here. Yeah. What led to this? After all of this testing, all of the taste test paneling.
Well, it's almost a culinary thing if you want to look at it like that, because we've been making beer for almost 13 years as a company, so the process is there. We just got to figure out, again, what do we want it to taste like, and what do we want the specs to be, what do we want the alcohol to be, what do we want the bitterness to be. So, again, it's kind of democratic. So this tasting panel gives us the information, and we go back from that information and we kind of decide as a group what direction we want to head. And, everybody's not going to agree that this tastes the best, but we know we wanted some tropical and citrus fruit character, and a certain amount of bitterness, and really an IPA that you want to go and drink a few pints of, maybe something that's not offensive or over the top.
hang out by the pool all day long with this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, IPA pool beer? That's
Nailed
a fun
it.
day.
Yeah. Well, and then now we've got Mr. Wiggles out on the market.
Mr. Wiggles, yep.
Okay, so what's Mr. Wiggles compared to Dadgum here?
If you ever had
Tell them what it was.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you ever had Drothauer or Drathar or any of the names that people could not pronounce the name correctly at, it's the same beer.
In fact, in your shop, you have a lamp made out of a rahr bottle.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
awesome.
Yep, we had some in there.
We had a lot of great feedback on
you
the
should have seen the
flavor.
drawing. Because our tap, well, for folks who don't know, our tap wall is chalk drawings, our interpretation of each one.
Oh, the boards, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of drawing a Drathar, the dog, my niece happened to be there at the time, and she was like, "I've got a good idea of what a Drathar is," and it ended up this like Medusa-esque creature
really want to see this.
with these wiggly things all
That
over
sounds
her head
like a
and big
cooler
old
label
long
than Fritz's
tongue.
dog.
Right?
Can we
Sorry,
steal your label?
Fritz. Sorry, but yeah. So that was the tap wall art. for
Everybody
us.
loved the beer, but could not pronounce or understand the name, which is just the breed of Fritz's dog. And I guess Mr. Wiggles is his name for
It's his nickname.
Yeah, it's his nickname
That is
for the
awesome.
dog.
Fritz has a wire-haired pointer called
Yep.
Schnapps. And that's the
come
dog on the bottle.
Can you be any more German about this,
Well,
Fritz?
yes,
He
you
tried.
can actually. The breed is called Drathar. And so the dog's on the bottle in his, as Craig used to say, in his uniform where he's about to like invade Poland. And nobody knows what it means. So we joked around.
So
and,
it was
They're
everybody
like,
loved the
"We
beer.
gotta rebrand this.
Yeah, and so Fritz apparently wanted to originally name that beer Mr. Wiggles Double Dank IPA, and nobody at the
Awesome.
brewery
Here we
wanted to
are.
do it with him.
Good job.
Yes.
And he got outvoted, and then I guess after a year or two was like, I'm the owner. We're calling it Mr. Wiggles.
I love it.
So we're like, okay.
Yes, that is perfect.
So now
Well,
it's the same dog on the can. It's part of our Den of Sin series. And the other distinction, and we'll talk about that a little more, I'm sure, is it's in a can. So it's going to be in 4-pack cans, and you guys have it there.
instead
at
of
the shop.
Iron Joe, the last one we had was in bottles. But anyway, yeah.
And that
Yeah,
one's
yeah,
graduated
the
to
Den of Sin.
4-pack cans as well.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, we got
But
Mr.
Wiggles is Drathar, if you had Drathar, and that beer came out of a series we used to do called the Visionary Series, if anybody remembers that, and that was something we did with the Fort Worth Weekly. It was pretty cool because it involved the community, so there was an art contest, and we would pick a style of beer, something we'd never made before, and obviously, as a sort of a traditional German lager brewery, we definitely didn't have any double IPAs in our repertoire.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, Craig I think kind of built that beer. He had gone on a voyage to wine country, and he had been at Russian River, so he was talking to Vinny at Russian River about making double IPAs.
So he's playing in California.
He came back with a
Yeah.
with a scheme to make a double IPA. It turned out awesome. It was our visionary beer that year.
Danky double IPA.
And the Fort Worth Weekly bit was there was an art contest, and the winner, whatever the artwork was the label for the beer. So Jeff would, our graphic designer, he would send that off, and that would be the label for the beer. So Visionary, second to last year we did it was this double IPA. So we brought it back 2 years later as Drathar, and then we've still got the beer. We just call it something different.
Now
which
it's
is
Mr. Wiggles.
Yeah.
I love it.
Such a fun
So-
name.
This started, to make the story short, my eldest now he got the name Mr. Wiggles on a trip to Colorado, and we had to pull over. My wife fed him, and I was burping him, and there was some song on, and he kept moving around, and he was doing this action. So he got deemed Mr. Wiggles, and I told him that a beer's coming out named after him.
In his
and
honor.
he's super excited. Yeah, he hasn't seen the can with the dog on it.
How old
though.
is he?
He's 5.
Almost old enough to drink that.
Well, yeah, he's close. Well, German age anyway.
Yeah.
He's totally fine.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna. I love you, Logan. I'm gonna keep lying to you. I'm gonna
It's
tell him
totally
the beers.
named after
This
you,
is
Logan.
for you, buddy. Yeah. All right, so we got Mr. Wiggles now. Wait, what else?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
What's going on over here? I want to know about this.
This is
Oh yeah,
one of
I'm freaking empty right now.
this is one of Austin's masterpieces.
So we have Regulator, our Doppelbock.
Oh yeah, and that's what we've got some of that here tonight. We've
That's
got
what
it
we'll be
over at the
pouring
Monk.
here, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so we're going to be drinking that tonight all night long. So if you guys make it up here, you're going to drink the standard Doppelbock. And then when we go back to the Monk for the after party later tonight,
We need to make sure everybody knows what a Doppelbock is.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's a weird word, like
Okay.
rahr. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All these weird German words. So Bock is a style in German. I think everybody knows Shiner Bock.
I'm sorry, I'm not
typically
waiting. I'm drinking this right
higher
now.
gravity lager. Yeah. More just a higher alcohol lager, a little bit more oomph to it, typically dark in color. Doppelbock is literally Doppel in German's double, so Doppelbock, double Bock. That's pretty straightforward. So it's like a Bock, but everything's just upped and just to
Higher malt bill.
to a number to 11. So in this right here is our bourbon barrel aged Doppelbock. That's a blend of about 50-50 year and a half aged in bourbon barrels Doppelbock, and then about 6 months. So we did a blend of the
Young
two
aged in. Yep.
to get the final product. So that's what we're drinking.
We
right now.
only brew regulator once a year in one small batch, just so people know. So that's why it's
Really?
really cool to win an award with it. And this beer has been very successful for us in competition and things like that, and well received. And we literally make one small batch once a year. And so that's
Golly.
why it took us 2 years to even, get enough barrel aged stuff together to do a market release.
To make something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Golly,
So
that's
there's just not
fantastic.
much of this stuff.
So yeah, we just from that bourbon we just get so much grape, just caramel and vanilla character. And that young and the old really blends together some of that little bit more developed oxidized stuff with some of that sweeter younger stuff to give you something that's just really just more than the sum of its parts.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely
It's
beautiful.
one of my
And
favorite
Austin
beers
does a really good job of sourcing fresh, local barrels that are freshly emptied that we can refill and really get a lot of infusion
so we
from the
try to
beer.
Play
get-
around with.
We try to get all our bourbon barrels from both locally, place in Fort Worth that I'm not allowed to say their name,
No, you're
and
not.
then
But awesome barrels.
yeah, they get great
Right on.
barrels, and
Right
then Witherspoon up in Lakewood is where we've been getting
Oh,
Lakewood.
Witherspoon?
Yeah, you don't like
Those
Witherspoon?
jackasses.
Aw.
Oh, wait,
I love
am I allowed to
Chris.
say that word?
Nope.
No, me too.
That's the
Me
first
too.
infringement, right?
No.
Or not
Oh,
in Lakewood,
I'm
but
sorry,
in
guys.
Louisville. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Louisville.
The
Louisville.
L names.
No, I
absolutely
love those
So
guys.
yeah, I always
actually-
love when I have to rent a U-Haul to drive up there.
Gotta go
'Cause it
load up
means
on
I'm gonna
barrels?
hang up for a while.
Then
Like,
I get to brew.
I gotta drink some stuff that Chris
Yeah.
makes. Yes.
So.
No, I love going over there. And
He takes a
it's
U-Haul up there and he
Shotgun
Ubers
Friday.
back. There's an Uber pulling the U-Haul.
towing a
Yeah.
U-Haul along.
It's like I don't need you to bring your car. Just
Oh, I
come
like
to the
this idea.
distillery.
Yes. No, I absolutely love those guys. Absolutely love it. And I was thinking Shotgun Friday, so we'll probably see Chris tonight. So there's another plug. How about that, guys? If you want to drink with these fellers tonight and Chris Lurg of Witherspoon Distillery, he's probably going to just wander in at some point. And it's Shotgun Friday. So there you go. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned barrels.
Yeah.
Whoa. What do you got in barrels? What's going on with this barrel program? Because we know about winter warmer.
We got a lot.
Right.
We've got our clean barrel and then our sour and wild program. So on the clean side,
That back.
we've got absolutely, like you said, bourbon aged winter warmer is included in that. Midnight Cab, which is a barrel aged black saison in Cabernet barrels, which this year, or well, I guess next year really is when it'll be released. Will be Chateau Montelena barrels.
Oh.
Uh,
Chateau Montelena.
They won their fame comes from the 70s when they won the Judgment in Paris with their Chardonnay. So for Midnight Cab, we have their Cabernet barrels. I also was able to get some of their Chardonnay barrels for a Petite Saison that will release in a real small amount.
Nice.
So
Now, do we have a timeline of when we can see these things?
That'll be a taproom only thing. It's a
Yeah,
very
it's
small
real-
volume beer that we use to
yeah, Petite Saison real small.
build up yeast for
The Midnight
another
Cab.
release. It's a barrel.
Yeah, the
barrel-aged
Midnight
beer.
Cab. So
Midnight Cab.
the Petite Saison and the Chardonnay barrels probably be brew release. It'll probably be ready here in a couple months.
Now, is that going to be ready for the anniversary party? Or
I
are we going
hope
to be
so. I hope
looking
so.
later
Be
into
petite.
winter?
I hope so.
Petite should be ready.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the barrel
So
aged
start watching the Facebook page.
the barrel aged
That's the key.
program is very much just it's ready when it's ready.
Right on.
but I'm hoping that Pizzaison will be ready by then.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
We have that, and then just honestly, it's a very experimental. We have some that we just, we get 1 or 2 barrels in and we fill them up with something of kind of our regular beers and throw in just something extra. Like we had 2 bourbon barrels. We filled them up with Ugly Pug, the Schwarzbier. We added some spices, and peppers to make like a Mexican kind of mole chocolate type thing.
Ooh.
And so that's currently aging away.
Nice.
We have what we call the Honey Graham Bach or Teddy Graham Bach.
Yeah.
That's
that one turned out awesome.
Yeah, Bucking Bach in a bourbon barrel with honey and cinnamon.
Oh, I love this.
But you get some I think I taste coconut and some sweet flavors that that are more than the sum of their parts from what went in there with that
to make
big
this
sweet
amazing
beer.
Yeah,
that one turned out really good. Everybody loved that beer, so we actually been making some more of that.
Yeah,
so
we got
that aging as well.
Yeah,
and again, this is stuff that we're not going to find on the market.
Just at the brewery.
Yeah, you've got to drop in at the brewery at the right time to try this stuff. Yeah.
Some rosemary beers, and to be honest, we have so many barrel. I've got a spreadsheet at the house, or at work, but we have so many of these barrels that I can't think off the top of my head. We have so many that are just 1 or 2
left and right, trying new stuff.
Well, we bring in Fritz's buddies with the local distillery in Fort Worth, the Acre, and so we'll get in 1 or 2 barrels, and I'll just fill those with what we have. I'll just get a random spur of the thought and fill them.
Try it.
Just try it. It's 1 barrel. See how it goes.
You never know when Fritz is going to back his truck up to the loading dock and say, "Hey, fill up this fresh barrel."
I have a question. What's the stout that he's local chocolate?
That's the 10th anniversary. That's a Dude Sweet chocolate.
That's that's what he's talking about. So Holling Lang, you're talking about the 10th anniversary.
Holland's with Brew for You TV.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hi, Holland. I think you're talking about the 10th anniversary beer, and that was the.
Is that fair?
That works.
That was the milk chocolate with the local Dude Sweet chocolate. So that was a few years ago. That was our anniversary beer then.
Oh, and
but we have a ton of those in the Clean Barrel program, which the Barrel Age Regulator is a huge part of as well. Barrel Age Regulator. We did Barrel Age Snowmageddon as part of that. But we've also expanded the barrel aging also into like sour and wild programs. Both Brett, Lacto, PDO, kind of all those things. So we've done them kind of separately. They're together, but they're also I stored the barrels very physically far apart.
Well, because you don't want to, you don't want to start side infections.
Yeah, it kind of started. Kind of 2 different things kind of happened at the same time. One of them was last year for an anniversary party. We're tasting barrels, or tasting kegs, really, not barrels. And just to see, make sure everything's good to serve, because we put aside and store a lot of kegs throughout the year so that on our anniversary parties we can have basically everything we make and then some. We want to really pull out the red carpet at our anniversary parties. And we were tasting those. It was kind of like, this is sour. It was a little tart, a little funky, but I kind of like it.
It's delicious.
And we look at the notes.
Amazing.
Something went wrong, but it's delicious.
This was supposed to just be iron thistle in a barrel. We weren't supposed to add anything funky to it. Well,
and this is the iron thistle we all know and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something happened to it, but I like it. So we rolled with it, and then we took those and turned them into literally took those kegs and poured them into barrels. And then topped them off with actual iron thistle.
Yeah, so we brewed iron thistle to be inoculated with
this culture.
The culture was in
because it was it wasn't a culture we bought. It was just whatever happened to be.
I think that was the smallest batch we ever brewed because we did a 10-barrel.
No, that was for
We'll talk about that one too.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different things. So that's what we're calling funky thistle. Is we brewed fully iron thistle and then put into those barrels.
That's awesome.
And I put basically 1 keg per wooden barrel. Like I put each keg into its own wooden barrel.
Really?
We had enough.
So you've got to have these half-full barrels
we had
sitting around?
Well, a half barrel.
5 gallons. We had 7 6 barrels and 1 partially filled half.
Okay.
and I put each of those into a
Into their
55-gallon bourbon barrel.
Quick fun fact: most people
Jeez.
like you hear the word barrel, you think
Oh.
wooden barrel. So talk cooperage real fast.
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
say
yeah,
a
yeah.
barrel, a beer barrel, a volume measurement, it's 31 gallons. So a half barrel is the big keg that's in the trash can that you see
That
at the
everybody
party.
sees, yeah.
Somebody's upside down, drinking. That's a half barrel. That's 15 and a half gallons. That
Yep.
puts it in perspective. So when he
There
says
you go.
barrel, whiskey barrel, wine barrel, that's 55,
Yeah.
59 gallons
Yeah.
as a wooden barrel.
Basically, yeah.
So he's fitting a keg in there.
So, yeah.
There's
so we
some
did-
room to play in
Yeah,
that.
so we
Yeah.
did that, but like
you
that
for
was
that. Yeah.
how we got like our Brettanomyces culture, and so those are fermenting and what we're calling funky thistle at
I
the
like
brewery.
this.
And then we had another set
Yeah.
of barrels that we brewed iron thistle, but we diverted it before adding that just like that sugar wort to the fermenter where it would.
Look, you are nerding out way too much right
I know.
now.
I'm sorry.
Let's talk about ammonia. like,
Let's get into
glycol.
glycol and
Let's get
ammonia.
into
Instead,
glycol.
so to make instead of the normal iron thistle yeast, instead of the normal brewer's iron thistle yeast, it only got the Brettanomyces yeast.
Okay.
So 100%
So it was
Brett fermentation.
Brett.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
we're
that is
calling
great.
that
There's
like
your soundbite. Yeah.
100 Brett, like Brett thistle, like
Save that.
things like
Brett
that.
Thistle.
Like it's 100%
Bristle.
Brettanomyces.
Are we naming a beer
Brett
right now?
thistle.
It just happened.
Absolutely.
Bristle.
You guys caught
Bristle.
this.
Iron bristle.
Iron bristle.
Iron
No,
bristle.
it's
Oh.
great. Yeah.
No such
so-
thing as too beer nerdy, keep it up, smiley face.
I like you.
Whoever sent that, thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.
Justified.
So yeah, so we have these like they're very flavor wise they're very close, but they're also different tasting them at the brewery.
It's
So
getting a little wild.
yeah, we're
essentially.
tasting
Yeah.
the different. Well, you get similar but different flavors either from letting Saccharomyces ferment first and then adding those funky yeast and bacteria afterward, or just doing it from the
Straight up
get
from the front.
go. You know,
Yeah.
you get similar flavors because it's yeast, but different flavors. And so we have that going on, and then we have another barrels that are what we call our orphan barrels. So our from our clean barrel projects, we plate every barrel before we blend them all together to check for any sort of contamination, wild yeast growth, anything we get. And if anything flags, we cut it. Period.
So if there's a sign of infection, you pull it out of the
Yeah.
clean barrel
So-
program, and then
So
it's
for
just
bourbon,
there.
so we're
There's
making
nothing to do
yeah.
with
So
it.
we're making
Yeah, they
bourbon
plate
barrel aged-
every barrel. You got to think that's if we do 90 barrels, wooden
That's-
barrels or
that's
something, that's
single.
90 fermenters, and something could
Yeah.
potentially pop in any barrel.
So bourbon barrels are winter warmer. We're not trying to make a sour beer, but we get one barrel that flags as wild yeast growth. We cut it. Well, it's not bad beer. We don't need to dump it. So
but
we
it's not the intended beer.
yeah
Correct.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we kind of shunt it over to this other program. Some of the beers have some enough growth that we don't want to do anything, or we just want to see what happens. We don't do anything with. Some of them we then go, okay, well, it failed that. We'll just add something to it. And we've got everything in between. So we've got some barrels that are just one barrel, like that's all I have, of some funky thing. And we added
play
some
around
funky
with
bugs
it.
to it. And we've got some barrels that are like the funky thistle, the 100% Brett beer. They always add all of it to it. A few weeks ago, we filled up 6 used Cabernet barrels from last year's Midnight Cab. We rinsed everything out. We filled them up with Buckingbach, and then I added a mixed culture of Brett, Pretio, Lacto, and little Saccharomyces as well.
Just to
Sometimes
just
we
like
just
the
have
funk it
Frankenstein
up.
thing. Just see what
Just to
happens.
fuck it up and see what happens.
funk.
and,
He said funk.
Funk, yeah.
That's not
with
a
an
bad
N,
word.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
to
funk,
clarify.
funk.
Right.
So I think Nate here,
Signed the
he
thing.
declared it Buggy Bach instead of
Ooh, I
bucking.
like this.
So it's
And sometimes we just have a little bit of extra beer. So like we made our anniversary beer last year. It was a wheat wine, which is
that's
high
actually
gravity-
a great way.
yeah. And we aged that in Cabernet barrels with cherries, and so we had a little extra beer, and we filled some wine
Filled some of
barrels
these barrels.
back with that, and put a mixed culture blend on that, and we're just letting that kind of
just
sour
do
up
its
and age.
thing.
So
See what happens.
It's kind of an open-ended project, like he said. You know, he'll
love this.
taste them and see
We-
what they taste like when they're ready, and then we'll see if it's a thing. And if it is, then we'll grow it into something maybe to graduate up
We've
to
got some
a package release.
Our
That's awesome.
we
Dude,
just
my favorite thing, the most awesome beer that you've ever done in barrels so far is the last batch of Storm Cloud, the English IPA that we kind of, you know, dissolved in favor of the American IPA in a very traditional manner. Austin had the idea of putting Brett on finished Storm Cloud. So if you think about
not even finished, pre-dry hopped.
Right. So just Storm Cloud finished beer before it's dry hopped. So essentially what would have happened, and we were talking kind of beer history earlier, and I'm not a beer historian, but the IPA style is born out of this trip from England around the Horn of Africa. Okay, so you have this voyage and you have this bitter, overly hot beer for preservation and whatnot that is intended to make a voyage in wooden barrels, and it arrives and at ambient temperature without pasteurization and the knowledge that we have post scientific revolution to cleanse things and culture yeast, you end up with a beer that's got wild yeast in it, right? So same thing, we just took finished beer, put it in wooden barrels, and purposefully inoculated it with the wild yeast. And that beer, for me, is one of the coolest things I've tasted ever out of the brewery. And, it's just kind of a project thing, but personally, that's one of the things I've been most excited about that has come out of the barrels.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
And I think we could, hopefully grow that up into something that we can
I think we
do a
absolutely.
market release with.
Into
Yeah.
a full program
that's
that we
the-
can see out in the world.
That's
Right.
the beer that, like, when we tasted Fritz on that was the beer that took him from like, okay, this is like a little program you guys.
Yeah,
are
how much
doing
does this
to-
cost? To
Oh.
yeah. Everybody's
Yeah.
eyes got big. We're like, this
yeah.
is awesome.
Do that.
Okay.
Just do more. Like
Nice. So, but still, we're still at the point where you have to
What you want?
you
Shrink
have
that.
to go to the brewery to try this stuff.
Yeah.
You can't even try that at the brewery unless
Oh,
you work there. Or
you
know
have
Austin,
to make
probably.
some friends
Yeah.
and hang out with
This
Austin.
is still in barrels,
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
trying things that are in process.
Right.
I mean,
So we are still early
we're probably
experimentation.
another year out from producing that at a volume that we can even package to.
Well, some
to
of
put in
it,
the market.
some of the
Gotcha.
stuff that we've
Gotcha.
had that's just 1 or 2 barrels, we've had a conversation like, do we like keg it up and make it, and just get the small amount that we have and pour it and like say that, or do we try to say use this as an inoculant to make more of it and then make more
To breed that
volume
culture in other barrels.
and then just wait because we know this is great. Do we use this as an inoculant to make more? So that's kind of a conversation we have to have is, do we run with just 1 or 2 barrels, or do we kind of just, we can do this. We can wait and make a larger volume as for a large sales aspect. And so that's definitely kind of where we are. Some of those just like when we have 1 or 2 because they're very experimental.
Yeah.
And sour and wild ales are very you don't have to empty those completely. You can grow them up and kind of keep them going.
You can keep this
and
culture
everything. This is the seed of something better, or not something better, but something larger.
Nice.
And how do we want to do that? And so it's very much just I tried to start a lot of different things just to kind of just throw a bunch of stuff out there and just see what happened.
You're throwing science against the wall. And
Yeah, because for this, it's a very brand new thing. We have some
I
experience
have a
with
similar
it.
metaphor, but I can't say it.
Yep.
I
And
agree not to.
Just we don't know exactly 100% of how this is going to work. And
well, because you're dealing
Sorry.
with wild ingredients.
exactly.
This stuff can react or can grow in different ratios, right? So it can
Which,
create
going back to the
different
beer
flavors
history,
as
is
you
pretty
go.
cool because that probably more closely resembles the fermented beverages that we would have encountered
Back in the day.
in nature and in human existence. And for us, as a traditional kind of lager brewery, boring, delicious beer that's very hard to make for style and do right, which we're very proud of, it's a huge departure from that. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's exciting, it's sexy, it's cool. It's something
Yeah.
that we don't do, kind of like an IPA.
Yeah, so we just poured.
It's kind of the next
expanding
the next
out into what's happening there.
Yeah.
Right on.
And so we just poured we had of that regulator batch that for the bourbon barrel age, we had 1 keg flag as wild yeast growth, and so we pulled that aside. We pitched a mixed culture of a bunch of different stuff, and let it funk up a little bit, but it was just kind of going its own little way, starting to get really caramely and not a particularly great way, like the caramely that indicates it's italicized and dead and kind of dying. And
I don't know. It's kind of nice though.
I was starting to get really worried about it, and then a big part of our aging program is keeping barrels topped off with filled up with beer.
Yeah.
And so the past about year and a half or so, anything we filled with barrels or set to barrels, I've shunted some off. I've just filled kegs with the hold is top off beer to just periodically fill up to make sure these barrels are filled up. And some of them where we only brew once a year. If we had done the barrels before we really got our barrel program running, I would just until now I shunt over kegs, but kind of up until we got to that point, I would just take those kegs into the farm and then just fill them up directly off the fermenter with just some tubing and stuff. And this was one of them. And so I don't know exactly how much transferred in, but that mixing combination of fresh, just regular regulator with that barrel aged regulator and funked regulator just came to be something more than it was just so great.
Yeah,
you had the sweet caramel, but it wasn't that cloyingness. It wasn't. I don't get the diacetyl. It's not butter. It's just that delicious, awesome caramel. And so it's definitely something I want to keep in mind. It's was it
it's a cool place for that little bit of acidity because it resolves back to what the regulator is, which is a big malty.
This is something that we
have
to decide. Do we want to do a blend of old and new to get this? Do we want to use this as that and funk it up and then add new stuff in? It's really exciting and really great.
This is where experimentation comes from.
Yeah,
at this point.
And I talked about our program early for experimentation with Dadgum is. It's totally possible that we totally fall on our face and fail or something, but we don't want to put that out as a final product, and so we try all this stuff out and find out exactly what works. And so far, this is working great, and we're really happy with it.
Right on.
But it's just even if we're really happy with it, because it's just one barrel, that's not enough volume to release out in the market. Okay, 1 bar gets it, 2 bar gets it. I'm sure you'd be totally stoked if you're the only bar ever to get something, but
that'd be fun. But I mean, I would think first off,
the only
it's
bottle.
To show up in the brew house.
How do we do more of that? That just doesn't work. So we try to do things as a little bit of volume, and we got to do something more than just 1 barrel.
Well, no, it's interesting. You mentioned bottles. So everything you guys have ever produced have been bottles.
Traditionally,
back in the day when I was getting 6-packs, they were all bottles, and now all I'm seeing now are cans. Well, cans and then the bombers. I mean, bombers the classic style. But what's going on here?
We tease people long enough with beers that they can't get. Oh man,
it's just a better package than a bottle.
Yeah, so you won't see bottles anymore. You won't see bombers anymore.
Not even bombers.
Nope. Not even bombers. So this is crazy. We're gonna can barrel aged winter warmer this year.
What?
Right?
Are we talking 4-pack cans?
4-pack 4x12 regulator would be in the same format.
So I don't have to drink that much beer one night. I can drink a 12-pack can.
Yeah,
you don't have to. We're excited about.
Yeah.
Figure out if you got to share with a friend or just hate yourself tomorrow.
Regret everything I'd done the night before.
And the reason for that is because of the time we spent over the last couple of years investing in instrumentation and building a lab program. We have just the sharpest guy on the planet called Nick, and he runs our lab. Shannon works with him.
Shout out to Nick, apparently.
Nick, yeah,
Hey.
yeah. Hope you're listening. I know he's out of town, but anyhow, they have built a lab program that has helped us refine all of our processes from brew house to fermentation to filtration to packaging.
By the way, that's freaking good.
Oh, that's really cool. I haven't had that one
And
before.
oh, dude.
Oh, this is first round.
No, I am. Yeah.
Oh. All right, I'm totally getting this
I'm a
before
noob.
you again. Here, I'll hand it over. Okay, so anyway.
But anyhow, to make a long story a little bit shorter, we found through the scientific process and employing a sharp lab staff and investing in instrumentation, spending time, our company has been very focused on quality for the last couple of years. Because, we've always made beer, and we've always made good beer, but we wanted to find out how we can make better beer and great beer and consistent beer.
Right on.
Beer that tastes the same when you buy it at your store or at a bar
Versus having it
as
at
it
the
does if
brewery
you come
and-
to the brewery, right? And so a big part of that is how it's packaged. And the big part of how it's packaged is how much oxygen gets in. So the oxygen ingress in anything will begin the aging process, right? So you want to minimize that. So we got a really, really cool instrument that can tell us how much oxygen is in the tank in a gaseous environment or is in liquid.
We call it a Nick.
Yeah, it's a
It's the Nick.
yeah, it's our head that's our head brewer, right? Okay, this instrument. So it tells us everything we need to know so that we can go and diagnose and refine our process and make sure that we are limiting the amount of oxygen anywhere.
Creating the perfect beer coming out of that system.
And on the flip side, we use the same thing to tell us how much oxygen to put in before fermentation because you want oxygen. So, you're dealing with a living organism with the yeast. It has different metabolic states, and so you want oxygen up front, but then afterwards you don't want any downstream.
Cut it. Yeah.
And so as far as the package goes, we had a bottling line that we'd had for I don't know how many years.
We've had it
since
at
the roof
post the roof
collapse.
collapse, so we got it in 2010.
2010. It didn't serve us well. It had been, in fairness, maybe not properly serviced and maintained, and it was kind of a Frankenstein.
It was. We found out later fact. It was not a bottling line that was built and designed to fill beer bottles. It was built and designed to fill like medicine, like saline bottles.
Oh, nice.
But you can
That's
have soda packaging equipment, all these
Yeah,
small
it's
but
just
it
manufacturing.
you
but it
things.
wasn't
reset the
designed to do
ingredients,
CO.
right?
It wasn't designed to do carbonated beverage.
At
Oh,
the
gotcha.
end of the day, it packaged our beer. It made beer that we loved and
made
people
it
fell in love
work.
with.
I was about to
and
say,
it worked. yeah.
It produced the beers we know
we
and
made it
love.
work, and we won 2 GABF medals off that oxidized product.
So
Let me put it that way.
what we did when we started to evaluate everything, and we started to can with a kind of a very rudimentary can filler, which was a 5-head inline filler, and I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but it's very entry
5 cans
level
at
and not counter pressure, ambient temperature. If you've ever been to the brewery, it's hot when it's
Very
hot, it's cold when
basic.
it's cold.
Yeah.
So, but we love the cans, and people love the cans, and so we thought, well, okay, we want to kind of step that up a little bit. So the decision to go all cans was a quality-based decision.
Right on.
We found that we could do better, and we could present our beer better in that package than we could in this one, and so we invested a whole lot of money in a really nice 8-head counter pressure can filler, an
So much
Italian,
better.
and the thing is awesome, and we run it with
this beautiful
very little
Ferrari
waste.
of a canning machine.
Ferrari, yep. And it works perfect all the time with no hiccups.
Nice, nice.
But no, I mean, it requires work too, but it serves us very well to the point that we decided, hey, we're doing so well with our levels of oxygen in this format that we don't even want to share this other thing with people. So we decided to go all cans for that reason. And
Right
then you also get all of the cool things about cans that people
That
love
you
otherwise. You
Do
know?
on Fridays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can we say that?
Or
The
oh
S-
yeah,
the
we can
S
talk
word,
about Shotgun Friday.
Okay,
Yeah. Whatever you do with your can after it's served to you, whether you punch a hole in the bottom of it and drink it quickly or drink
That's
it
to
normally.
the public. That's not on us.
Yeah. That's your own business.
Even if we do it.
And another cool thing that we did when we went to cans, we talked about Jeff earlier, who does our marketing, graphic design, all those things. It sort of consolidated our branding a little bit. We kind of rebranded, so you'll see this this shield pattern on
Right
everything
on.
that we
Yeah.
do. Because before we had a lot of cool artwork
Different
on the
yeah,
bottles, and
different
they
things
were
across the-
scenes, and they were people, and they were stories, and they were all relevant to the rahr family history and the rahr tradition. The blonde it's Fritz's mother. She was a pinup, and she was like, in the Miss Minnesota.
She still is a beautiful lady.
Yeah, indeed. The Oktoberfest was Fritz's father tapping a barrel,
yeah.
and the ugly pug was his mother-in-law's dog. So you have all these stories, but they didn't look the same. So if you could
They
see
didn't create this theme across the brand.
6 or 10 beers of ours on a shelf and market, and you can't tell it's the same brewery. So this was an opportunity for us to rebrand too, and
Right on.
make it easy, make it consistent. And I think Jeff did a great job. The cans have great colors. We talked about the tasting panel. We have sort of tasting panel on
the notes.
what color, and what color do you guys like out of these 10 greens? And so there's
gotcha,
deliberation
gotcha.
about all of that sort of thing too. So
Well, and one thing I love from a town like Denton, there's so many people that bicycle here, that hike around, that go out and play, that hit the water, that
right, back to the
bottles,
reason cans are awesome.
Yeah, bottles can't go everywhere. Cans tend to go everywhere. I mean, when I go on a long trip, like a hike trip, yeah, I'm probably not going to take a bottle. Because if I trip on a rock, I'm going to end up with glass on my backside. But I can take a couple of cans.
That's a good question. We got
It's
to think
like-
about that. Sorry.
Holland's got a
and
question.
Here's a cool thing. Like, this can, look how tall it is. Put a bottle next to it. Look how tall
Oh,
that is.
yeah,
so
that's a fair point.
For raw material storage, for cooler storage. And so there's all these cool things about cans, but that's why I go back to and explain the whole thing with evaluating our oxygen levels. Like, sure, all those things are cool. We were bottling fine before, but that's
Cans
the
are
reason.
just a superior product all the way
That's
around.
the
It's
reason
a
we went to
superior,
cans.
yeah.
It's
Right.
because of the quality, because
Think
of
of
the
it as a
presentation of the
mini
beer.
keg. How many people like I can guarantee you a million people. Well, you just can keg or can or bottle. They'll just like innately say, "Oh, a bottle is better than a can," like without
But
thinking. It's
when you think about it,
instinctual. But
your
what
beer
if you
comes in a
tell
keg
them
anyway.
a bottle or a keg? They'll tell you, "I want a keg." Well, a can is a mini keg.
There it is.
So
there it is.
basically, if you like draft beer more than bottled beer, I can guarantee you
It's a great question.
you're gonna like canned beer better than bottle.
Oh, heck yeah.
All right, so what's an ingredient that we've never tried but are interested in trying?
Well done, Holland. Well done. This is Holland Lang, again, from Brew For You TV.
You stumped me.
Well,
All that I've
that's not
never
Holland.
tried?
That's not
That's
Holland.
Holland.
We'll
Okay.
wave at you. Or we'll
Yeah.
blame you, too.
I was wondering why I didn't wave
That's-
back. You
no, I'm
pointed
talking,
at that guy. and
No,
you-
I'm talking to the camera.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Because
There's
Holland's
cameras in
watching
here?
us. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you
Hey,
think those are?
guys. There are
That
cameras
wasn't on my.
in here. Wow. I think our
I should
guest
put my
just figured
pants
out.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fix that. Fix that real quick.
Button that top button.
Never. I'm gonna unbutton one for that.
Okay. Ingredients.
Never tried.
Onions.
Dirty and
Garlic.
Well, never used, but
I've
don't
never.
want to.
Yeah, I guess it is interested in trying. I'm not really interested in doing that. Well, he's always here.
Does water count? I want to try RO water.
Oh.
We've done
Oh.
There you go. Turn it on. Turn it on. It's here.
Getting crazy.
Yeah. I want to try.
I don't
brewing with
know.
RO water.
Bring back the beer ball. What's the beer ball, Holland?
What? Are you talking about like the Coors Party Ball?
Are these all Holland?
Yeah,
I've
this is
only-
all Holland.
Holland's
This is
run out of
all
something
Holland.
to do.
I
Going
don't
on.
I don't know what the beer
I
ball
don't know. I'm
is.
sorry. I don't know Holland.
This is getting bad. I want to go back to this original question. Is this something we should come back to later and post about?
Yeah, that's
something
a
I
good,
need
we
to
could
think
ask. I would like to ask everybody else back
At the brewery, yeah.
Oh, that'd be okay.
What do you
So
want?
Holland,
We have some.
back on ingredients. Yes.
We have some
this would
really
be awesome.
awesome creative people who are definitely way smarter than me that will probably answer that
Nice.
question.
Okay, Holland, we're coming back to the ingredient. We're gonna post it. You guys want to post it
Keeps
on
looking
the
at
video
camera. I'm
later?
like, I think
Sure,
Holland's out
yeah.
there.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Holland, you're gonna get an answer to that
And
later.
that's on you because I don't have Facebook.
As,
All right.
oh, yeah, you got to do that.
All right.
Now, as far as Holland goes with the beer ball, Holland, come on now, man. Let's
don't know
up
what the
this
beer ball
conversation. I really,
Is it a
I
ball
hope you're
full
not-
of beer?
that's
I
what
like
I
that.
think he's talking about. Is
I'm
that what
gonna-
you're talking about? Are you still watching, Holland?
I mean, I'm just gonna drink it, right?
Fair enough. Yeah. It's just a fermenter or a keg.
The
in a
beer
different
ball
shape.
was I was a child in the 90s.
What do you really are talking? You're talking about a course party ball, aren't you? All right, I'm totally discounting
I'm
Colin
just
at
thinking
this
how
point.
I would have had to put a
I'm
number.
cutting
Like
him
I
off.
couldn't have spelled the word 90s. That's
Pretty impressive.
That's daunting.
Yeah,
I think
that's
I would have just
very
put
impressive.
90 apostrophe S for sure.
Oh man. Well, guys, this has been fun. This has been a total mess of fun. All right, and what are we doing tonight? All right.
Serving
So we're
regulator.
doing.
Regulator.
Yeah.
Doppelbock.
Well, and here we've got Oktoberfest and Dadgum.
Oh,
So if
right,
anybody
okay,
comes
yeah.
here, they're getting free pours. So
I'll tell you this too. If anybody's listening, we canned those in the last 2 days. So the
Super
Dadgum was
fresh.
canned Thursday. The Oktoberfest we pulled off the line today. So it's barely even settled in the mini keg.
we're talking super fresh, guys. Get down here today, right now. We're going to be hanging out for, I guess, like another hour or so and serving some free beer. And then when we go back to the Monk, we've got Regulator. And then we have Mr. Wiggles for shotgun party time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, this is going to get
That's
messy
a shotgun party for
real
sure.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us again for Free Beer Friday. Say bye. Bye, everybody. Wave.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Guys, we'll see you next week. Enjoy the weekend.
Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out DentonRadio.com for new Denton artists and where they're playing next. While you're surfing the internet, make sure you check out our friends Classic of Denton at ClassicofDenton.com.